And still on our year-end report, today we are looking at agriculture in Africa in 2019. African farmers found new ways to boost their yields despite harsh economic times and unpredictable weather patterns. And their governments pushed them to use more technology and campaigned to lure more youth into the sector. Let's watch this.
Africa is forging ahead with the African Continental Free Trade Area, a project to create a $3.4 billion economic bloc. Its champions, South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria and Kenya among them, say the deal will spur trade between African nations, giving their companies access to millions of new customers. Rwanda has emerged as one of Africa's fastest-growing economies in recent years, attracting a growing number of investors who want to set up businesses in the country.
Trade agreements and economic policies won't have much impact without actual infrastructure. With the launch of this facility, Rwanda is doing its part.
In the highlands of Ethiopia, there were families who were seriously thinking about calling time on an industry that has sustained families for generations. Yosef Lema, a coffee farmer, said the price for a kilogram of coffee beans had fallen a third to 8 birr, or just 29 cents in just a year, reducing his income. A slump in the global coffee prices to their lowest in nearly 13 years is raising questions about whether it's worth growing beans at all in some of the traditional coffee heartlands of Central America, Colombia and Ethiopia.
The price of coffee has certainly gone down. However, we cannot stop growing coffee just because the price has gone down. We're going to be lazy. Even the price of gold fluctuates on the international market, let alone coffee. It will go up at some point and then come down at some point. That is just how coffee prices behave.
Gabriel Etta was harvesting pepper at his farm in Obala in Cameroon's central region. Etta grows pepper, cucumber and tomatoes on about 4 hectares of land. The 26-year-old is among a group of young farmers in the country who enrolled on the Youth Agro-Pastoral Entrepreneurship Promotion Program, PJEUNES, which wants to promote farming among youths as a way to help create jobs and improve food security.
I like agriculture a lot, and as an entrepreneur, you must make progress, not stagnate. When PJEUNES, that's the Youth Agro-Pastoral Entrepreneurship Program, gave me funds, it wasn't for me to just concentrate on one type of farming, but rather on different types of farming, which would help other young people, and also so I could employ other young people.
In Kenya, organic waste collected from a municipal market in Kitale in the country's Rift Valley region was being processed into manure. David Ngige started Dajopen in 2009.
Well, in South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, in his New Year message, reflected on a year that brought many challenges and quite a few triumphs to South Africans. According to him, despite the difficulties of the past year, day by day, South Africa draws closer to its ambition of a better life for all South Africans. He was quite hopeful in his speech, but let's see how hopeful the citizens are in the new year. I'm being joined by Trinity Nkube, an economic analyst there in Johannesburg. Good afternoon, Mr. Nkube. Thank you for joining us, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, and thank you for having me.
Right, so you listened to President Ramaphosa's New Year message. What struck you most in that message?
I think he was quite bullish about the 363 billion rand that was raised this year. You know, building towards the 1.2 billion rands that they want to raise in the next 5 years. To invest in infrastructure and economic renewal. So that's something that really stood out for me. Apart from that, you know, the usual corruption, trying to stamp on corruption and so forth. Also, maybe more exciting would be the fact that, you know, SA will have the African Union chair. I think there's some opportunities there for growth.
So looking at what the year 2019 was for South Africa, what do you think will drive growth for the economy this year?
There are no quick fixes at the moment. The growth is going to be subdued. We're not expecting any miracles. However, from what I've been seeing, there's been some encouraging signs regarding small medium enterprises. So if there's some investment in that space, we have some job growth and so forth. But it's not going to happen all of a sudden, like 3 months. We're looking at 18 to 24 months for some of the reforms to kick in and create jobs, start some investment, even private domestic investment.
All right, so you talked about quick fixes. What are those steps the government took in 2019 to drive the economy that you think should be changed this year?
When I look at the whole competition, policy reforms, I mean, it's quite encouraging, but it doesn't really bring everybody on into the picture when it comes to economic participation. So I'm looking at there should be some investment towards job growth, youth entrepreneurship, small to medium business growth. When we look at the reforms that are put in place regarding SOEs and so forth, those don't really, they support the older workforce. When you look at some of the people who are clamoring for the SOEs to keep jobs and so forth, these are older people. So we're looking at protecting pensions instead of bringing the youth into the economic participation. And that could be a political disaster for those in government going forward, because you need the youth to be working, you need the youth to be creating jobs, you need the youth to be producers. So I think there's a little bit of reprioritization that needs to be done.
All right, so the president says steadily they are rebuilding the public institutions that are so vital to the democracy. They are restoring the law enforcement agencies and taking forward the fight against state capture and corruption. How much faith do South Africans have on President Ramaphosa and his team in delivering the dividend of democracy and moving the economy forward this year?
Having observed what has been going on for the past 2 decades, unfortunately, it's come to a point where it's not just about rhetoric and promises. The people actually want to see stuff happening, and it's not happening as quickly as people would like to see. And the more rhetoric and promises that come through, people are starting not to believe all the messages from the political front. Unfortunately, as well, when you look at it, you have a legacy of apartheid where the current government also took over or inherited a system, an economic system that is not working for the entire population. So as long as we're looking at just fixing here and there and not actually transforming these particular institutions, I don't see any long-term sustainable economic development or economic growth that has everybody chipping in and actually participating in the economy. So there's so much to be done. It's not a matter of putting bandages. There has to be transformation and an impurity in purpose in terms of, okay, let's fix this institution so that it works for everybody.
All right, thank you. Let's just hope for the best, Mr. Ncube. Well, Trinity Ncube is an economic analyst there in Johannesburg. And finally, Egypt has left its domestic fuel prices unchanged at the second meeting under an IMF-backed pricing mechanism that links energy prices to international markets. At its inaugural meeting in October, the pricing mechanism committee cut fuel prices marginally after the government increased them steeply over the previous 3 years to cover the cost of fuel on international markets. The committee's quarterly meeting decisions take into account international energy prices, the Egyptian pound's exchange rate against the dollar, and other factors. The fuel price increases were part of a $12 billion 3-year extended fund facility signed on November 11, 2016. And that's a wrap on the program for today and, of course, for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimezie Obi Iwagu.